Okay, the first category is contemporary artistic. Jane LaRue, 1 star, Oil and Water, Gold Award.
Marissa, go for it.
This is a lovely abstract image, Jane. I like the fact that you left all the grungy looking mess in it, that it almost looks like it's got like a feeling of planets and something from out of this world. Really nicely done. I like the colors as well. It's got a very muted, earthy, well, should I say, like a very calm kind of look to it. Well done.
The next one is Toy Skellen, 4 star, Triangles in Architecture, Gold Award.
Nice one, Toy. I enjoy this image. I love the lines, the shapes and the forms. It's good composition, nice coloration. I can't even read my writing, but the images talk of that. So well composed, the Toy. I like the exposure and the lines, and that in particular, that sort of tilt and that angle just adds lots of value to this image. Well done.
Good evening.
The next category is macro. Hi, Ian.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
Hi, Ian.
Just in time to crit the next image.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Okay, macro, 5 star, Flying Dragonfly, Silver.
Okay, so interesting one to start with. I really like this image. Nice detail, nice and sharp. Well positioned, nice composition as far as positioning in the actual crop. Unfortunately, with it flying away, you don't get the impact that you would if you were looking at the front of the insect. But nonetheless, still a good capture. Well done.
2 star, Mini Mollusk in Beech Tree, Silver.
Well done to the author for spotting this. I have to say, the one thing that has let this image down is just the crop. Or perhaps if the author had gotten a lot closer and we were able to see what the author saw and have the focal point just more pronounced and more impactful in the image, it would have scored a lot higher. But it's always interesting when you can see things like this, and my encouragement would be keep looking. But definitely for a macro category, you need to get a lot closer into this image to be able to make your focal point prominent.
5 star, In the Middle, Silver.
All right. So first of all, I like the composition, and in this case, I'm normally against square crops, but in this case, it actually works quite well. I think the detail on the centerpiece of the image, or the center of interest, that's quite sharp. I'm a little bit concerned, however, about the whites around there, and it's almost super soft. And I must just say up front, just inform the members that from across the country, we've had reports that the images that they see via Zoom often contradicts with the actual image like you would view normally. So we will make some allowances that you do lose some detail, but unfortunately, as we see it right now, just not quite there.
Elsevier de Toy, 5 star, Fly 11 points, Gold Award.
Nice capture there, Elsevier. Very typical of a macro shot. One has nice detail, a nice diffused background. The angle is interesting. and there's enough detail on the hairs and the eye, around the eye, the face of this fly to make it a good crisp image. Well done.
The next category is monochrome. Rona South Shop, Master Bronze, Please Look After Me, Gold Award.
This is a beautiful image, Rona, a very good conversion to mono. It's generally very difficult to get a rhino to look really good, and I think you've done an excellent job. You've used lighting excellently here, and as a result, it's rendered this image really beautiful. Well done.
Van Berens, Master Bronze, Seascape in Mono, Gold Award.
Nice capture with this movement in the water there, Fawn. Nice composition, movement, as I said there, and the streaks. Sorry, I'm just trying to read my notes here, and it's so. In this case here, I normally talk about the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. And in this case, you managed to capture it beautifully. In this case, the sky is not so interesting, but the foreground is interesting, and you've drawn attention by that with the way you cropped it. The horizon line on a fifth, more or less. So a great image, well done.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze, Long Crested Eagle, Gold Award.
I'll have to pass on the comments.
Well done, Ian. Lovely image, very nice conversion as well. You've got some very good tonal range in there. What I like about the image is the detail and the texture in the bird and the feathers. And whenever you convert images to mono, I think something really striking and interesting is texture. And you've really done that well. Well done.
Thank you.
A 4-star, Meet Munsa, Silver.
Yeah.
Okay. I quite like this image. I found it quite interesting. The fact that you've got the tonal range from your very dark blacks to your very lights, and especially that sort of polished edge on the blade. The fact that it's quite, I won't say overexposed, but it's quite prominent, makes you think that that's quite sharp and it could render some serious injury. However, there are a few little things that one could possibly improve on. And if one looks just below the base of that section where that actual slicing piece is, just underneath, it's a little bit bright there. And obviously one could do something to improve on that. But otherwise it's a pleasing image. And I like the position, the way one views it with that sort of diagonal, with the top of that grinder, and then obviously with the radial sort of lines at the back and the front, it just adds some appeal to it. Well done.
4-star, The Final Sprint, Silver.
Right, well, I think, first of all, what I do like about it is I like the panning technique, and also managed to get a lovely blurred background. And even though the cyclist isn't that sharp, it is sharp enough to add strength to it. However, the crop is really where it lets it down. So not only is there no room in front of it to go to, but you've also cropped off the bottom of the wheels. And if possible, if you do have access to this image and have complete, try and include more of the bicycle and a little bit more space in front. But nice conversion.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star, Out from the Shadows, Gold Award.
This is really a lovely image, Malcolm. Definitely the conversion to mono has worked for this image. The lighting is really good. You've got the subjects, even though there are two subjects, they're really, really sharp, and it adds to the story. And I definitely think that the way in which you converted this and kind of created a vignetting around it and getting your eyes to focus on the dogs themselves was really well done.
The next category is nature. 2-star, Hammerkop, silver.
Sorry, I'm just getting my screen side. That's better. Okay. Yeah, I quite like this image. I thought that the author managed to capture some very good detail, and at a 2-star level, nice and sharp. Henry mentioned just now the square crop. There is a little bit of maybe an issue with the way it's been cropped. Perhaps if one were to crop tighter and just have the diagonal of the head, if that was possible, and maybe tilt it. But a 2-star, a good image. One needs to also be careful. I don't know if those little black dots in the background, they may not be dust spots. They may just be some bokeh of something in the background, but just be careful of those things when you have that sort of light background, that you maybe check and see whether they are dust spots or not, because those you can remove and it would add a little bit better impact to the image. And then possibly also a little bit slightly darker, I think would, from what I see on my screen, maybe a little bit, tone it down, drop the highlights a little bit, and you would get a better quality image. But well done nonetheless.
A 2-star, sunset spikes, silver.
Yeah, I think the author sort of put with this very unusual silhouette, and I quite enjoy that. And of course, there's a bit of sky color behind it. However, on its own, it's just not quite strong enough. And I think if you had included more of the actual plant from top to bottom, it would have added a little bit more interest. But at least you've recognized the shape and the line, and that's the start to understanding photography and all of that. So just keep it up. But on its own, as there's really just not strong enough.
Andries Borman, Master Bronze, Eyes, Gold Award.
A lovely image, Andries. Nice and sharp. Definitely where it should be. The eyes of the cat really catch you. I think if there was anything that I would have liked is to just, instead of the square crop, you could have probably used a vertical crop and left a little bit of space in front of the cat. And in my opinion, that would have enhanced the image greatly. But as presented, nice and sharp. The eyes are captivating. Well done.
Next category is nature wildlife. Van Berens, Master Bronze, Egret in Flight, Gold Award.
Well done, Fawn. It's a very nice capture of an egret. I always like seeing this kind of bird with that very diffused and soft background. And I like the crop. I think you've got enough space for the bird to fit in nicely. It's got space to move into. I wouldn't really say that the whites are a little bit too white, but possibly one could drop the highlights 1 stop or 2 stops just to kind of lower that. But otherwise, a very nice capture, nice image, and quite pleasing. Well done.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star, Jab with the Right, Gold Award.
Great story, Malcolm. This image has lots of impact, there's movement, and that's what you want in wildlife these days. So well done there. The background is so I think first of all, if I look at this, it seems like it was an overcast day because there's no shadows in there. So that also then helps you to have a nice exposure or tunnel rays throughout. So actions there, sharp and well captured. Well done.
5-star, woolly neck stalk, silver.
I think this is a strong composition. I like the S shape of the stalk neck. You definitely got the whites nicely. There's no overexposed, and you can definitely see like nice texture in the image. The color on the eye is very it's a high impact. However, I think that what could possibly have let this image or kept this image from a higher rating is just simply that it's too static. Maybe just some sort of movement, and perhaps if it was entered in the portrait section, it might have done a lot better. But I think the only reason that it didn't get a much higher mark is possibly because it's a very static image.
Rona Cell Shop, Master Bronze, Your Majesty, Gold Award.
Great shot there, Rona. One would very typically look at this picture or this image of this lion and start complaining about those little thorn bushes and things in the foreground. But with nature, you get what is presented in front of you, and you've managed to capture a very, very appealing image, nice detail, lighting is very good, and you've got that movement, and it's nice to see the animal in its actual environment, and that I think adds to this image. It doesn't take away from it, so well done.
3-star, Orderly Resting Geese, Bronze Award.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for the author, the image is just unsharp and it's totally out of focus. And that spoils it to, certainly because with the image presented here, you have the five birds all at rest, and that in itself is a nice composition. So if it had been sharper, it would have been a far better score. Really just check your focusing issues.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze, Fluffing Up the Feathers, and that's a Gold Award.
Well done, Ian. This is really a nice image because it's got a lot of action. And for me, what really makes this image is the stare from that bird. It's almost like it's looking straight into your eyes. It's very pleasant. The nice clean background obviously enhances it. And I think compositionally, you've done really well with it as well. Well done.
Thank you.
Jacques Cell Shop, Master Silver, Egret on the Hunt, Gold Award.
Oh, well done, Jacques. Actually, it's stunner once again. I just love the exposure that you've got here, the action, the shape of the bird, and then this reflection in the water. It just makes it one of those images that you'd expect to see either in a catalogue or on a calendar or even as something hanging on your wall. Well presented. Well done.
2-star, On the Road to Nowhere, Silver.
Well, I must say, when I saw this image, I really enjoyed seeing it, and I think you've done very well. Your depth of field is amazing. You've got very sharp focus from your first zebra that's on the right-hand side right down to the fourth one. And very interesting that they're walking down this road. Again, it's just the unfortunate thing is if one can be, I'm trying not to be rude, but it's a bum shot. And one always wants to see at least some sort of part of the front of the animal, maybe the eye or something. This kind of image works very well as an abstract if one were to zoom in and just have, for example, the second from the right, got some nice detail on the back there. And if you just had those lines with that sort of oval shape, and one zoomed in, it would present a very interesting image, which would probably score quite well. But otherwise, lovely capture, nice, the S of that road at one, you wonder what's around the corner, but unfortunately with the zebra walking away from you, it loses its impact.
Henry Opel, Master Silver, Airborne Assault, Gold Award.
This is a really easy one. Well done, Henry. All of that action, catching the bird in flight, those awesome talons, the nicely diffused background, the beautiful light. Yeah, everything just amazing in this image. An excellent image. Well done.
Thank you.
4-star, Double Vision, Silver Award.
Yeah. So what I like about this is that you have kept big, and then you also see there's another one of the high mark. I think that the focus is a little bit soft on the birds. That's spoiled. So that, you know, might be arguments against the background. That's how it is out there. And it's not that disturbing some sharp.
Michelle Pearson, 4-star, Yellow-billed Kite, Gold Award.
We've still got the, oh, there we go.
Right. Well, Michelle has done it again. Got a very, very nice capture. Lovely detail on that bird. Preening its feathers, the eyes nice and sharp. A lot of detail in the feathers all around. Just add something slightly darker, maybe add a little bit of contrast or a little bit of clarity, and you'd pick up a little bit more of that detail in the feathers. You could possibly even try a little bit of the texture slider in Lightroom, and that would bring out even more detail and would raise this to possibly even a merit. But well done, well captured.
Master Bronze, Landing, Bronze Award.
Who's it? Me. Yes. All right. Is it me? I take it's me, so I'll print on this one. So if you just, that's all great. I think what lets this image down is that it's almost, I don't know if it's over processing, but I don't see detail on the, looking at the bird on the inside in the shoulder area. Although the bill is sharp, so maybe it's a depth of field problem, you know, I would imagine with that sort of background, we have a great photographer in our club that always tells us that, you know, birds are looking at f8 and 800 of a second, that type of spec and all that. So maybe that's where the problem lies. But certainly, as it's presented, great composition, everything else except that it's a bit soft on the back.
Sorry if I can just add something there very briefly. What I found that let me down on this image was those very black blotches on the bottom right, and then they're visible throughout the back, behind the legs, and up in the top corner. And then there's also some haloing and aliasing on the top right of the feather. I'm seeing some green and some turquoise banding there. And that is very typical of a little bit over processing. And it's something just to be careful of. You might not notice it on your own monitor, but sometimes it's quite evident on others.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star. The Chase Gold Award.
I think it's me. Is it? Or is it Nerissa? Sorry.
You can go, Ian. It's fine.
No, I'm not sure if having jumped the gun there and just added those comments.
No, fine. You can go ahead and comment.
Okay.
It's great.
No problem. Thank you. Well, I must say when I saw this, it's one of those images that's very striking, very appealing. I think it's a very, very interesting image. It shows the kind of thing one would actually expect to see on a very poorly lit day, and you've got a wild dog that's sprinting across in front of you, and you've got no choice but to kind of do the best you can with the light at your disposal. Unless if Malcolm was feeling very creative and deliberately took this image at a very much slower shutter speed. But I think it's done well. It's a very interesting image, and not all wildlife images have to be these razor sharp, perfect sort of blends. It's got a lot of appeal and a nice sort of restful sort of a feel to it, which I find quite pleasant. Well done.
And Borman, 5-star. Blue Wildebeest at Waterhole Gold Award.
Nicely spotted, Anne. It's very seldom that we see wildebeest in scenes like this and think that they can be photographed, and I think you did a great job with it. What I actually like about it is the very organic composition with all those wildebeest in a line creating some sort of form. So for me, the very strong part of this image is kind of the line and the form in it. And I think the fact that you did this very thin panoramic kind of view actually is what enhanced this image. Generally, an image like this can end up being just thrown away because you look at it and you think, well, you know, there's nothing I can do with it. But you saw something really nice and you made it work. Well done.
Rona Selshop, Master Bronze. You Are Standing on My Eggs Gold Award.
Oh, Rona, beautiful story. Just the coloration here, the tones. To me, the stars of the show is really the little baby elephant and then the bird flying in there and warning him off. Great exposure, thin, sharp, well presented. Well done.
3-star, Puntail Waida Bronze Award.
Okay. The actual capture of this bird has been well done. The composition is good. I like that sort of curve from the tail across to the front of the bird, and that a branch coming up at that diagonal adds to the quality of this image. So why such a low mark? Why a bronze? Why not a better mark? Unfortunately, when one looks at the background, one can see quite a lot of noise, and it's possibly been quite a dark or overcast or low light sort of situation that you've just had to push your ISO up so much that it's affected the quality of the image overall. And although the composition is good, there's just not enough detail there or sharpness to give it a high mark. But good try, good attempt, and keep it up.
Henry Oppel, Master Silver. Best foot forward, Gold Award.
I love the colors in this image. The background that's so nicely muted, and then of course the jacana's foot. If I could just offer one bit of advice on this image, I just think that the shadow areas of the bird could just be improved a little bit. Maybe you could actually just pull out the shadows and have a little bit more texture and detail in it. But it's a sharp image. I love the background, and I love that foot that's just breaking through the water or going into the water. And your timing was excellent. Well done, Henry.
Thank you.
Mike Skellen, 4-star. Timid Bushbuck, Gold Award.
Well done, Mike. These are actually a rare sighting. I have yet to see them in a clear position like this without a messy background. So you've caught some action in it, it's running across, and that adds to the interest in the image. I don't have really any other crit on that, and I think you take a shot and you've done the best under the conditions. Nice background, and the animal is in motion.
Michelle Pearson, 4-star. The Mango Monkey, Gold Award.
Another great capture there. Well done, Michelle. Certainly deserves its gold. The detail in those eyes and that stare, that gaze, you've just managed to capture at the right moment in time, which you seem to do quite often. Your sharpness front to back is very good. And yeah, overall on my screen, it looks very good. I would, however, personally have applied a small radial filter around the brighter part, around the mouth, and maybe just tone that down ever so slightly. It doesn't distract a lot from the image, but I think it could improve it slightly if one just reduced that sort of brighter area there. It does drag your eyes a little bit away from the actual eyes of that animal, but otherwise very good.
Three-star. Starlings on Yellow, Silver.
Bless you. Okay. Yeah, interesting image. So it's almost in a couple of images all in one with this group of starlings on there. So if you look at the two birds on the top, the exposure on the blacks is well handled. And then if you look at the one on the bottom left, that's almost in total contrast to those up top there. So when you have multiple images like that, or multiple subjects on the same image, I would try to get all the tones even throughout. And maybe it's just a case of lifting or selective radial brush on Lightroom on those bottom birds and just bring out some more detail, drop the shadows and increase some clarity there, then you would have a far stronger image. So the stars of the show, the two up top there, and that's if you have different image or different sequences there, see if you can isolate those birds on its own and have a stronger image.
Five-star. Digging In, Bronze Award.
That was such a great sighting to see this little oxpecker with its mouth right open and digging in. Unfortunately for the author, the focus was not on the bird, or it could just have been your shutter speed was just way too slow, so you didn't get that sharp crispness that you needed to have got captured that action. If ever you have an opportunity like this again, my suggestion would be definitely look at your shutter speed, because my feeling is that that's where you could have been let down. Remember, the animal is moving, the bird is moving, and you need quite a fast shutter speed to be able to freeze this little bird on an animal. So just look at that again.
Henry Opple, Master Silver. Brothers Magnificent, Gold Award.
Nice one, Henry. This is one of those where one has to always say the biggest problem with it is that I didn't take the image. But yeah, well done. It's you've got wonderful detail. One may comment and say, and it's often said that horizon, as it were, cuts the image in half. But I think that is balanced out by your composition and placing the lines where you have that. You've got that lower sort of horizontal line where the water edge is. So it actually kind of, it just adds to the appeal and the impact on it. And then the eyes and the heads are in such good detail and such good focus that you don't really look at the background that much. So yeah, great capture, well done.
Next category is Pictorial. Five-star, style is a way to say who you are, Silver.
Yeah, it's one of those images when you look at it, you keep on looking for more. I just like the story that the author is trying to portray. So everything, as far as what you can see, is that it's well exposed. It is in focus. So why not a high mark? I think it's a little bit disjointed. So there's a little bit of tension in this image if you look at it. So the amputation above the ankle, that sort of creates, I would have preferred maybe just to see either the tacky on its own or the knee through the jeans. So if you do have this image in a wider format, and you can actually then get both knees and both feet crossed and all that, it could be a far stronger image. But as it is right now, it's just a little bit jointed, unfortunately.
Master Silver, Camping Sailor, Silver.
I think the author spotted this scene and obviously saw the story in it, and definitely wanted to bring this across to us. I think the image definitely lacks punch and contrast. It's a very flat kind of image, and compositionally, there's no space for this to move into, or the crop is just too tight. So it's almost too uncomfortable, and as a result, it loses the impact. I see the story, and I see what the author perhaps wanted to let us know. But the fact that it's flat and it's so tightly cropped, it almost has an uncomfortable feel to it.
1 star, Plain Sailing, Silver.
Yep.
I think it's you, Henry.
Okay. Plain Sailing. So I like the diagonal lines running from right to left. It's a very busy image, and you don't, I would have liked to have seen a boat stand out and dominate hold one's attention. So being an overcast day, I think that's added to the sort of flat lighting, but I think in Lightroom you're able to pull out a little bit more detail in those clouds in the background, add more drama to it, a little bit more contrast in it, and then you could have a far stronger image than it is here.
Master Silver, the Sterfontein Dam, Silver.
Henry, would you like to comment on that, please?
Yeah, this is one of those images that had me looking and trying to work out what it is. So if you look at the first impression when you see it, it has a lot of impact. I mean, the view of this dam from here is very photogenic, and we don't often see this. But when you look at the center line, so if you look at the wear, So first of all, exposure, everything is, the clouds are there, you've got the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. If you look at the middle ground, there seems to be an issue over the water, and I'm not quite sure what it is. So between the mountain range, almost in the center line, if you look at the water, you have this sort of a uniform blue of the water going, gray blue, and then you get that very like white streak running from left to right. And I'm not quite sure what that is now to explain it, but that certainly spoils the image for me. And I don't know what it is. Maybe some of the other authors can, the judges can crit on that, or offer some advice on that.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, Henry. It certainly does seem like there's something going on there. What it is, I don't know. I would certainly not be surprised to see a difference in color on the grass on either side, if there'd maybe been a fire or something and it had grown at a different rate. But to see it on the water certainly does look quite strange. It does pose the question as to what it is and why. So yeah, almost like a wave action that one would expect to see more in the sea, which is not consistent with the flat water there.
Now, as you say, if it hadn't gone onto the water, I would have accepted there's something in the fields on either side in the grass.
Yeah.
The fact that that line carried on right across is a bit of a problem. Maybe, and it's a pity really, because it's such a strong image.
Marine Parents, 5-star. Postcard Flowers, Gold Award.
This is a very interesting image. Even though there's so many flowers here, Karine very interestingly used color to create a focal point with that bright pink flower. And there's obviously been some sort of filter or technique that was applied to this image. It's overall a very pleasing image. The colors look nice. It always has this painterly feel to it. Personally, I think that this image would, if it was me, I would enter it more in one of the creative categories, because I think it's really a nice creative image, and you can see the creative technique that was applied to it. But I think she very cleverly used color to create a focal point in a very busy image, and for me that was perhaps the most outstanding part of it.
5-star, Follow Your Dreams, Silver.
Yeah, look, I'm of the opinion that if this image had been entered under artistic or contemporary altered reality, I think it would do far better than it has in the open category. So this is a mask or a filter that's been applied, or I don't know what the correct term is and all that, but it's the original image would have been a real live vehicle racing and all that, but the technique applied is turn it almost into like a lovely poster type image. So I think just be very wary in future when you enter images like this in open. Consider where they would be best suited, and in my opinion, this would be far better in the artistic contemporary.
Shark Cell Shop, Master Silver, Strelitzia in the Sun, Gold Award.
Well done, Jacques. You captured a very, very nice image, a lovely detail. I like your exposure. The bright parts just sort of add a sharp appeal to, especially on that lower green and that horizontal line. It just sort of sets it up for you to kind of take in that whole image, and that little circle of that, or that ellipse that's been formed by that little frond or whatever it is, also just sort of adds to the appeal. You've got the diagonal lines, you've got the different lines pointing in different directions, then you've got that sort of elliptical look which mirrors the flowers, or those two flowers that are vertical there, that just makes this image very good. Great capture.
5-star. Where flowers bloom, so does hope. Silver award.
So once again, the colors in this image are beautiful. The whole technique, creative technique that was applied to it is really nice. I think it's really nicely done. And just like Henry's comment and my comment about the previous image, I definitely think that looking at the categories where these images would actually fit in is essential. And my opinion, once again, on this is that it would definitely have done a lot better in a creative category than it would in open. I think it was nicely thought about. The colors are very nice. It's got a nice appeal to it, and you definitely can see the author's creativity.
Next category is PJ. Ian Taylor, Master Bronze. Will it or won't it? Gold award.
Great capture, Ian. This is what you want in PJ. It tells a story. It's on top of everybody's mind these days with everything happening in the cricket. But more importantly is if you look at the action, the guy's about to strike the ball. It's in perfect focus going towards the wickets and the wicket keeper ready to catch it. So everything that you require in a PJ shot. Movement, action, story. Well done.
Thank you.
Next category is portrait. Elsa B. Dutoy, 5-star. Taisha, gold award.
A lovely capture, Elsaby. What I love about this image is the use of backlighting and the fact that you gave it this very soft, lovely look. If I only had to comment on something that I think would improve the images, is because this is portrait and manipulation is allowed in this image, I would go and have a look at the background. Because of all of the busyness that you have going on in the background, it actually detracts from the beauty of this portrait and from the girl's face itself. So if you could just imagine that with a very clean background, the impact of this image would be a lot greater. But as presented, well done.
1-star. World Smile Day 2018, Silver award.
Well, for a 1-star, I think you've done a very good job. Nice composition. Certainly got a strong interaction between the model or the subject and the photographer. And again, as a 1-star, you've done well with many aspects of it. Unfortunately, the key to really nailing this would have been that the eyes would be in focus. And Narissa mentioned earlier shutter speed, and one needs to be so careful. There may have been a bit of movement by the model. She certainly seems quite excited. That jug looks quite in focus. So just watch your shutter speed, and that would certainly improve on this image. Well done.
Michelle Pearson, 4-star. Grey-headed girl, gold award.
Well done, Michelle. You're really showing us how to do portraits of birds lately, and this is just a fine example of your skills with that. So compositionally, if you just look at it, it all just falls in place. The eyes just off a third, it's pin sharp, there's texture on the feathers, the whites are well handled, and so the grays, and a nice clean background. Great presentation, well done.
Andres Borman, Master Bronze, Inspection, gold award.
Ian, you can do that one.
Oh, sorry, Nerissa, I wasn't sure if it was you or me. Yeah, well done, Andries. Lovely capture of the sunbird, checking out its nest, looking at what's going on around and about. You've got lovely detail in that material on the nest and in the bird. The eye is nice and sharp. Yeah, the only thing, if one wanted to try and achieve a higher mark, one would need to get more of the rest of the bird in sharp focus. But otherwise, I like that diagonal line that it's at. And yeah, great capture otherwise.
Next category is Scapes. Jane LaRue, 1 star. KZN Sunrise, Gold Award.
Jane, I think this is a beautiful seascape, and it's wonderful to see that as a novice photographer, you have started experimenting with long exposure, and I think compositionally you've done really well with this. I love the fact that you've got a lovely foreground, and the fact that you've got the softness in your image. I think what has kept this image from a much higher mark is, first of all, you have to look at your image when you post-processing to remove dust spots and things like that. And it seems like the image, especially in the sky area, has got dust spots. And secondly, it just seems like the rocks in the front are slightly out of focus. And I know that when you're photographing around water, it's very easy for things to appear out of focus. But I would strongly suggest it could have been movement of your tripod, and that very often happens in the sand because things are moving all the time, and maybe your tripod just shifted a little bit during this long exposure. But I think it's just left your rocks a bit soft. But compositionally, it's beautiful. I love that little circle around the rocks, and I definitely think you're on the right track. It was very beautifully done.
Master Bronze, Sunrise at Whale Deck Beach, Silver Award.
Well, this image ticks a lot of boxes when it comes to seascapes and all that. Yeah, the soft pastel colors, sun just peeping out from behind the clouds there, and certainly a lot of the slow shutter speed. You have a lot of trails, water trails in the foreground. For me, the image falls down because of this rock protruding from the bottom there. So if I can make a suggestion, you either crop it out. So it's either include the whole rock and place it in a position where your eye goes up to it and then to the middle ground and then to the background, or eliminate it completely. And I think if you have got room underneath, you see how much better the image would be if you do include this rock in the foreground. But cropping it like it spoils it, in my opinion. Everything else to me is spot on.
4 star, Luxury Line of Melbourne Docks, Silver Award.
Okay, we're looking at a 4 star. So I really, initially looking at this image, I thought it's a great image. It's good in that you've got the strong diagonal, not as much detail in it as I may have probably preferred at second looking at it. So if you'd applied a filter on the bottom, a diagonal filter, and just brought up the shadows, it might have not made that so dark and intrusive, but it does tend to lead you down towards the middle of the image, and then you tend to run across. But then it almost becomes a bit too busy, and one doesn't really find anything to rest the eye on in the background. That foreground is very strong, but it's a bit too dark. And then at a 4 star level, you've got that dust spot in the top that's quite visible. And I think there are 1 or 2 other smaller ones, but the one above the ship on the right-hand side, the sort of foreground part of the ship, Those are things that you need to be aware of. But otherwise, a great image. And possibly if one wanted to and crop out maybe next to that crane and leave that sort of little buoy or sort of lighthouse or whatever it is in, and just have the ship, it may improve on the image. But I do like that foreground, but yeah, unfortunately it's quite dominating, and you end up not knowing where you're supposed to be looking at.
2-star, Zebula, Silver Award.
The image has lovely colors. I love those pastel shades, and once again, it's lovely to see photographers go out and look for subjects in this kind of beautiful light. I don't understand why the author only included a part of this tree, but because of the very dark bottom end of the image and the half tree, it almost seems like it's incomplete. It has a very snapshot kind of feel to it, and definitely compositionally, I think the image is not strong enough. So when you find these beautiful opportunities, use them by trying to find some very strong focal point. And in this case, this tree is lovely because it's got a lot of detail. But if it was a complete tree, I think it would have made the image a lot stronger.
Five-star, Morning on the Beach, Silver.
Yeah, I think the ingredients are all there for a great image, and I certainly enjoy the way you've captured the sky and the light reflected on the wet sand in the foreground. So why not a high mark? Maybe the Pano crop actually doesn't quite suit his image. So again, if you have the original one and there's no, normally people crop things for a reason, either to exclude something or to draw one's attention into something in particular. So what I liked about this image is I like the line from left to right following the shoreline, and then that figure in the background, they just add some extra interest on that, into this image. But maybe the Pano crop is actually part of the problem.
Next category is Sport. Tom Prince, Master Bronze, Leading Woman, Gold Award.
Henry, can you please comment?
Yeah, well, again, the sporters could also do in PJ. Beautiful exposure, right time, early morning, I would imagine, and very vibrant colors. You have the three ladies in the foreground being very prominent in all that, and then your eye leads up to the right, to the back, and there. High mark, I certainly gave it a 4 because I think it had enough impact to warrant that score. But possibly a little bit of green in the foreground on the side, yeah, it does spoil it a bit. But as presented, I found it very acceptable.
Paul Ellis, 1 star, Canopy Piloting, Gold Award.
Yeah.
Ian?
Yes, I'm here. I must say, I thought this was a great image. A lot of action and detail captured with that foot just catching the surface of the water, and a nice panning technique. The pilot of that I don't know what you call it, canopy that he's flying under, the air wing or whatever it is nicely captured in nice detail. The only thing I would say that lets it down a little bit for me is there's not enough space for the subject to move into. And unfortunately, that is often the case when one is doing these action shots. Your panning technique might just let you down a little bit and you don't have enough space in the front. But if you did, and you could add on the same width again, I think it would add a lot more to this image, and it would give it a better mark as well. But well done otherwise.
Well done, Paul.
Next category is the set subject. Five-star, mixer, silver.
Marissa?
I think this definitely fits the brief for a set subject. It looks like a kitchen, something from your kitchen. I think the technique, once again, applied by the author, kind of left this image looking soft and very muted into the back, or very blended into the background. I think if there was less detail in the overlay or filter or whatever the author applied to this image, it looks more like another image that was so like a compositing of two images. Perhaps maybe done a little bit more creatively and created a bit more impact on the main subject, it would probably have done a lot better.
Master Bronze, Tomato Shake-Up, Silver Award.
Yeah, I just love the colors in this image, such contrasting colors, and that makes it a very, very strong image. I think where it maybe gets spoiled a little bit is that the process that was applied to the tomatoes on the tabletop and on the actual cutter or grater, the fact that the main center of interest, which is the main tomato, is sharp and everything else is a different technique. I think in this case it does spoil it, but I would have preferred to see it all the same process throughout, and it would have been, I think, a far stronger image. But love the colors in the composition.
One star, oh great, Silver Award.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, I thought that you certainly met the brief with this grater. It certainly is an abstract image. Interesting, the colors that you've managed to get, and the elliptical sort of foreground and then the circular background. Yeah, it's always a very difficult thing to judge and to comment on something that is sort of someone's artwork. And that is what I feel this sort of falls into. And I think it's got a lot of positives. It's got a nice sort of radial spread on the bottom when you look at it, and then it's got a little bit of a diagonal on the back. But overall, it doesn't really draw your eye to any specific area. When you look at it as a whole, it's interesting. But it's almost two images in one, where the background is out of focus and you sort of don't want to look at it in the foreground. There's enough in focus for you to look at it, but that radial effect makes you want to look in the background again. So you end up wandering back and forwards, and I think that's what just loses the appeal a little bit.
Van Berens, Master Bronze, Egg Beater, Gold Award.
Me. All right, well done, Fon. Again, I enjoy the shapes and the forms. So this fits a brief 100%. This is the old-fashioned mixer that you don't find anymore. So this reminds me of younger age when my mom used to make cake and icing and all that. Sometimes my Brit got his finger caught in the gear here, but that besides the point. The exposure on this is well handled. I like the different shapes and the lines. And so you could have made a mistake and maybe had the smack bang in the center. You didn't do that. You put it off onto a third. You had a leading from the left. So it was a well thought out image and well handled. Well done.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star. Circumlocution, Gold Award.
Malcolm, I have to say I love the colors in this image. I have to be very honest, I was a bit confused when I looked at it because I couldn't quite figure out what were all the things that were in this image. And I think that was what was the appeal. The fact that it was an abstract kitchen, something from kitchen, and that I couldn't identify it, definitely grounded for me that it was a form in it. So it was very artistic and very nice. Well done.
Rona Cell Shop, Master Bronze. Steaming Teapot, Gold Award.
Yeah, I liked this image when I first saw it. I looked for the teapot, saw it in the middle, and then I thought, it looks like a teapot in a fish bowl or something like that. If those fish are on that teapot, they almost look like they're swimming around in that bowl, which really does add some interest. Certainly does fit the brief of being abstract. Those other shapes and lines, I think, kind of make you wonder what kind of tea it is, and maybe it's got some hallucinogenic properties. But yeah, the only criticism I would have is that there's a little bit too bright on the bottom right, and maybe just in that section where the handle of that teapot is. But otherwise, I don't think that detracts too much from it. There's enough there that makes it a strong image. So well done. Good shot there, Rona.
Candice van Vollenhoven, 2-star. Margus Stacked, Gold Award.
Nice one, Candice. Exposure, well handled here. I like the very dark background. The way you stack the cups adds an interesting shape, contour to it. I think if you had included the bottom cup so you could see the base of that, then it could have probably been a higher score. But as it is, you're on the right track, certainly, and keep up the work. Very interesting. Well done.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze. Pepper Grinder, Gold Award.
Very nicely done, Ian. I love the shapes in this image, and the fact that you created such a striking focal point and placed it like almost smack bang in your face. Really enhances the image. And the fact that you had all of these little peppercorns and this little grind in front of it makes it, I think, a very strong image. So well done.
Thank you very much.
Nice one, Ian.
Julie Eisenbeck, 2-star. Whisk, Gold Award.
Is that me, Henry?
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, well done. Definitely can see that it's a kitchen utensil. I like those diagonal lines that run across, that you've got that on, and then you've got the totally different sort of orbiting shapes of that whisk that you've captured very well. And I like the colors on it. You've got that sort of red reflection that just enhances and makes your eye focus on the front. Great capture for a 2-star. When you start to experiment a bit more, maybe with Lightroom or Photoshop, or whatever your processing method, if you are able to change some of the darks or the lighter areas, I would look at that central dark spot in the top of that V. And if you just toned that down, lightened it up a little bit, I think it would just add a little bit more appeal to the image. But apart from that, well done.
Master Silver, reflection in a glass kettle boiling, Bronze Award.
Larissa?
I think it's really a nice reflection. I think where this would have been, or we would have found this difficult, is that looking at this reflection, there's nothing to say that it is in a household utensil. But however, the image was in, I gave the image the benefit of the doubt. The processing, so the bright whites, or should I say the exposure, there's some very white and bright spots in it that tend to be distracting. Maybe having included the entire kettle into this image would have definitely enhanced the image, and it is really, really interesting.
5-star, kitchen abstract, Silver.
Yeah, interesting image. Really like and enjoy the diagonals and the different lines that you've got here. I'm not sure if so that in itself is commendable. What I do find a problem is that my eye wanders all over the place. Then I think that the light sort of edging around the image is almost like a vignette that's gone a little bit wrong, or the intention was to lighten it up. And I think that does spoil the image. If you do away with that vignette, one's eye is drawn back into the green, and I take it that it's blades of some type on there.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, reproduction, Gold Award.
Yay, I'm so glad that I'm commenting on this one. I thought this was so well thought out. And the nice part about it is that you've got what the previous image with the tomatoes certainly, although the attempt was there, this one has accomplished in that you've got very nicely focused and nice detail in the foreground tomatoes, and then you've got the section of the tomato that's left on top of that grater where it's been sliced through, and those, one can imagine those tomatoes coming out if it was some sort of a magic show. But the diagonal, the layout, and the thought that's gone into this, well done, Joan. Great image.
Yeah, well done, Joan.
Mike Skellen, 4-star, kitchen utensils perspective, Gold Award.
I definitely can see what Mike was trying to do there. And I think he's definitely achieved the brief in terms of abstract. What keeps the image away from a really good score or a really high score is the bright background. It's always really, really distracting when your background is brighter than your main focal point or your main subject. And I think if Mike had perhaps not had such a white, bright background, this could have done really well, because we can definitely see the forks and the knives, and we can see the utensils, and this very nice creative process that was applied to it is really good. It's just the background that's very disturbing.
Troy Skellen, 4-star, light captured in glass, Gold Award.
Well done, Toy. I like the technique that you applied there. It's a different take on a kitchen item, and you've succeeded in that. I just question whether 2 glasses is strong. I think one would have been stronger, and hopefully you'll get back and experiment with something like that. And then just to draw your attention to the foreground on the left-hand side here, it is a little bit dark, and it could quite easily be corrected in Lightroom and just lighten that up a bit. But well done, well presented.
2-star, Retag, Silver Award.
I think this is a really nice attempt at an abstract image, and I see what the author was trying to do here as well. Unfortunately, the very, very bright blown outs completely distract from the image and just also render the image soft. So the little spots on the metal or the lighting or whatever that was used just didn't work the way the author would have liked it to. So it's given the image a very blown out, almost too bright for the eye look.
One star, kitchen object, silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite confused. I wasn't sure what it was. Looking at it again now, I'm kind of wondering if it's a colander or something in a bowl of soapy water. I presume that's what it is. Yeah, a difficult one again to comment on. There are elements of the image that are well done. And there is good focus on some of the bubbles and things there. But then the center of it, for some reason, looks, I don't know if the water's running into it, that it's like bubbled up or something, if it's been pushed down into the water. But it's one of those kind of images that you look at and there's nothing for you to really rest your eye on. And again, there's this kind of thing with photography. The sum of the parts needs to make up a whole. So sometimes you look at an image and it just appeals to you, and that's because the elements in the image work well together. This is one of those where you kind of at a bit of a loss. One could even go as far as talking about that part of the circle, the bottom left, where there's that black or dark brown with the black part on it. Those sort of things just detract from the image as a whole. And it's one of the things that I've started to realize when one looks at different forms of photography like this. You know, it's not just a picture of a person or an animal. There's a lot of room to think about the image. The whole sum of the image needs to work together. And I think that's what's lacking on this one. But a great attempt anyway.
Michelle Pearson, 4-star. They come out at night, Gold Award.
Oh, well done, Michelle.
Brilliant, Michelle.
Really like the thought that went into it, and the story is absolutely beautiful and well handled. So if I have any crit at all, slight criticism, it will enhance this image. And if you're going to enter this in salons and all that, and I suggest you do, is if you look at the background and the sort of top right-hand side, there's a bit of a shape there that could easily be cloned out and correct. And that does detract a little bit. But the story is almost like a Martian trying to claw its way out somewhere. Well thought out, well presented. Well done.
Well done.
Nice image.
Yeah.
Andres Polman, Master Bronze, Mini Spanners, Gold Award.
This is really nicely done. It's such a minimalist image and very, very pleasing. And I think that little bit of color against this dark background just makes it a very striking image. Compositionally as well, I think it was very nicely thought out. You didn't just place the two of them next to each other or whatever. You created some sort of real interest in it, and just using that little red bit in it has made it striking. Well done.
Anne Borman, 5-star, Reflections on Spoon, Gold Award.
Yeah, certainly, again, one of those images that's very appealing. This one as a whole certainly does work. One almost feels you in a forest, and then you wonder if that's a zebra, but obviously you're looking at the pattern being reflected in that spoon, and it certainly is an interesting image. Again, one must just be careful that top section, the handle or the shaft of the spoon that's visible. If that was toned down a little bit, I think that would enhance the image, but otherwise very well done.
5-star, egg whisk, silver.
A very nice. Oh, sorry, Henry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lucy. Go ahead.
A very nice image. I love all of the forms and shapes of the whisk, and the fact that you didn't take the whole whisk into consideration or photograph the whole whisk. A very nice color chosen for the background as well. It must, however, we must always be mindful, though, that even when we're photographing set subjects and stuff like that, exposure is really, really important. And I think this is just one of those things in this image. The very bright left-hand side, where you manage to catch the light and metal is always a challenge, takes away a little bit from the image. But I think it was a very nice attempt, and definitely a nicely thought out idea as well.
Master bronze for lefties, silver award.
Yeah, so it was complimented also in the actual design that he's managed to achieve. You know, I'm not sure if it's a filter that distorts everything like it, but I like the twist in it. To me, I just find it a very busy image. It's sort of almost like a bullseye image, and very difficult to focus on any given spot. So I think just a slightly different crop, making sort of either vertical or horizontal sort of crop, giving a little bit more space, placing it a little bit in the third could maybe enhanced it. As in the other images also, as we mentioned, and in this case stands out, is if you look at the very bright spots in 3 of the spoons. So the bottom 6 o'clock position, the 8 o'clock position, the 10 o'clock and the 12. So if you look at that like that, again, that's something that you should pay attention to and easily manage with a diffuser or just altering the source of light further away and make it softer. But good effort and nicely presented.
Candace van Vollenhoven, 2-star, coffee anyone, gold award.
Yes, please. I'll have a cup. I think that would go down nicely now. Thank you. Yeah, Candace, I think you've done very well with this image. When I looked at this, I realized obviously that you've got a coffee machine there, but it almost looks like Darth Vader with his mouth open and he's going to swallow that cup of coffee. So yeah, I thought it was well thought out. Whether that was intentional or not, it certainly appealed to me, and I thought it was a great image. Well done, Candace.
Julie Eisenbeck, 2-star, egg slicer, gold award.
Very nice one as well, Julie. I think composition is very strong, and the use of the color yellow, obviously, you know, was good, because it is one of the dominant colors when it comes to catching your eye. I think what kept this from a higher mark is that little white spot on the top, and maybe if you had just in post processing pulled down on the highlights, or maybe just changed your light source. Also, I think a word of advice is, if you had actually photographed this right from the top rather than photographing at an angle, you might have been able to eliminate some of that light that's caught on that other little handle on the other side. But it was very nicely thought of. It's a bullseye shot, but it's really nice and well done.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, Futuristic Greater, Gold Award.
Yeah, I like the way that I was drawn to the handle at the back of the grater. There's nothing that sort of detracts one's attention. You are drawn to that handle. So if you look at the little white spots in the grater and all that, they're not obtrusive. It's not overdone. So I don't think you could have done anything more on that. So nice lines pulling you towards the back and well exposed.
Candice van Vollenhoven, 2-star, Cup of Rice, Gold Award.
Yeah. Narissa, go for it.
Nicely done, Candice. A very clean image, once again. Nice. The fact that you let some of the rice spill into the background also just enhances the image. And I think, yeah, just the fact that it's almost minimalist with the colors that you used, it has created an impact.
Three-star, Anyone for Strawberries, Silver.
Yeah, very interesting image. I like the color. The red obviously stands out and is very appealing. At 3-star level, you need to start thinking of your exposure a little bit more. Your white background is possibly a little bit overpowering. Not excessively so, but enough so for it to just kind of make the darker pieces more kind of pronounced and almost lets it down a little bit as far as that's concerned. It makes the shadow parts more evident. And in saying that, the back two strawberries, although one would struggle to get a depth of field across that image, maybe at this sort of close-up distance, focus stacking is a technique which would enable you to take more than one image and in post-processing get all 3 strawberries in focus and still have the background out of focus, so you're not being drawn into that. But otherwise, well thought out. Having 3 items in the image always does work well together. And for a 3-star, good attempt.
Candice van Vollenhoven, 2-star, Cheese Knives, Gold Award.
Yeah, Candice, well presented. Interesting design in the image. You have these different shapes at the bottom, and then the pieces of cheese that, as Ian said earlier on, the total sum needs to make the components need to make the total image. And in this case, you've succeeded. Just slight sort of or a suggestion that maybe see if you can tone down on the highlights of it. So if you look at the reflected piece, you see the sharp edge on the very big cutter, and then the knives and the forks, the little silver rim at the bottom. Those are all the light traps that actually makes one's eye wander around. But really well thought out and well presented.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, Greater Heights, Gold Award.
Nice one.
Oh, this is really a fun image, Joan. I actually really enjoyed it, and I have to say, well done with your creative thinking there. The exposure on it was really nicely handled. You have no blown out spots. The image was nice and sharp. And yeah, I definitely have to say, really well done on the creativity. It's a lovely image, nicely thought out, and with or without the title, it's really nice.
Well done.
Yeah,
Okay,
well
that's
done.
the last image.